So we'll be in Hebrews chapter 7, verses 20 through 22, just a couple verses. And then next week we'll finish off chapter 7, or we should finish it off. Fingers crossed. And the main theme that's been going on in this section of Hebrews is Jesus a superior priest, better than what the Old Testament priest could be. Not only what he was, but what he could be. So let's go ahead and read this section for tonight. Can I have somebody read that? Shane? Hold on. Let me have you.
Don't think I'm loud enough already? Okay. None of this happened without an oath, for others became priests without an oath, but he became a priest with an oath, made by the one who said to him, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind, you are a priest forever." Because of this oath, Jesus has also become the guarantee of a better covenant.
Okay, so let's kind of break this section down a little bit at a time. A lot of this is stuff that we've been looking at for a couple weeks now. Why was Jesus able to be a priest when he wasn't a Levite? You know, how is that a thing? And what's the order of Melchizedek? What does it mean that all that? So we've been building on that for quite a while now. And then he gets to these verses here, and it says, starting in verse 20, none of this happened without an oath. Now you remember he brought up the point about oaths. I want to say that was in chapter 6. As a way that God as a way of something becoming more certain, more assured. So he returns to that right here. Now, it kind of leads right into the idea that he's talking about. It says, none of this happened. What is this that he's talking about? Well, if you remember last week, he talked about how Jesus became a priest not according to genealogy, and how the Levites, that priesthood was annulled. So then, none of that, the annulment and Jesus become a priest, none of that happened without an oath. But on the other hand, for others became priests without an oath. The others he was talking about would be the Levites. So then we get to verse 21, and he says, but he became a priest with an oath made by one who said to him, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You're a priest forever." So whereas the Levites didn't have an oath, Jesus, on the other hand, became a priest by God's oath. Now, the oath is superior, and we're going to look at this. Go to the next slide there on that. Jesus' priesthood has three different things that it's going to bring up. Okay, the first thing is that Jesus is a priest because of the oath made by God. And so another way of saying this is Jesus' priesthood is based on a superior promise. So the oath is superior to the genes. Now here's a question that I think we can all kind of think about for just a second. How is Jesus being a priest by an oath superior to the Levites being made a priest by their genealogy? Don't all rush to answer at the same time. You know, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that absolutely has a lot to do with it. Just in case you guys didn't hear what she said, does it have to do with the fact that Jesus was chosen rather than just kind of waltzed into the priesthood? And I think that definitely has a lot to do with it. Because, you know, the fact that Jesus specifically calls him out and says, "You are a priest forever," it kind of seems to imply that. So I think you're right on the money. The oath is superior to the genealogy because God himself made a promise of something. He called him out specifically and made a promise. So then the second thing about Jesus' priesthood is based on a superior promise. The second thing, God won't change his mind. I'll read it again from verse 21. It says, he became a priest, Jesus became a priest, with an oath made by the one who said to him, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind." This isn't something that God's going to get bored of doing. He's not going to change his mind. And then the third thing is Jesus' priesthood is not going to have an end. It will last and it will endure. So we have kind of three things there. It's an oath. God's not going to change his mind. Jesus is a priest forever. Sorry, I'm having a lot of burps. I don't want to catch it up on the microphone. Yeah, I think that'd be kind of gross. So, how does it? What's the significance then of these things? How does it apply to us? How is it significant to us then? How do these three things matter to us besides just knowing them? It's a hard question, right? A lot of times I think we read the Bible and we don't stop to just say, okay, but what is God trying to say to me? How is this applying to me right now? So Jesus is made a priest by God's promise. He's not going to change his mind. His position's not going to go away. He's not going to go anywhere. How is this significant to us? Any ideas? Right. That's exactly what I'm trying to get at, Melissa. I wish I would have handed you the mic. She brought up the thing that, the president in 4 or 8 years, he's no longer the president, right? But with Jesus, we don't have the concern he's going to go somewhere. So let's kind of draw out what she's saying here, okay? The situation that gives us our confidence is not going to change. We have the confidence to draw into the holy place because Jesus is our priest. Well, that's never going to not be the case. Jesus' priesthood is not going to end. He's not going to die. God's not going to change his mind, and he's given us a promise. So this is something that it doesn't just give us security now, it gives us endurance, because we know in the long run also the same thing is true now. Because remember, once again, the 2,000 years later, we lose some of what's being said here. But you have to remember, 2,000 years ago, you have these Jews who are leaving their Jewish beliefs to turn into something different, and their families are not too excited about this. They're not real excited about this. Their communities are not real excited about this. So they're having to face a total change. It's scary, and everything that they know is going away. Well, now, in the midst of all that chaos of their life, Jesus' priesthood isn't going anywhere. It's like, okay, this is good. This is a solid thing that they can hold on to. Another way of saying that would be that this is the new state of affairs. So we can go to verse 22 now, where it says, because of this oath that he's going to be a priest forever, Jesus has also become the guarantee of a better covenant. So let's just kind of explain a few things, including the idea behind the word guarantee. So it's one thing at a time, though. So since God made the oath, Jesus is thus our guarantee. Now, it's going to talk here, become the guarantee of a better covenant. That's going to be the next thing he talks about after, in verse 7, he's talking about Jesus being the priest. But in chapter 8, he's going to start talking about the better covenant. And then he's going to eventually start talking about the sacrifice. And he's going to introduce that in chapter 7, but he's going to talk more about it later on, because there's a big Jewish question that we as non-Jews aren't asking. How in the world can one sacrifice cover all time for all sins? How is that a thing? Like, how is that possible? So he's gonna address that, just like he addressed the Jewish question, how in the world could Jesus be our great high priest when he's not even a Levite? So he's been asking these Jewish things, and if you don't understand the Jewish problem with Jesus, Hebrews loses a lot of its impact. So okay, let's keep going here. God's oath established Jesus as the priest. We talked about that. Therefore, Jesus is also the guarantee of the covenant. And I've tried to figure out a couple different ways to word this to kind of get the idea behind it. And I settled with a quote by a man named George Guthrie. He's a theologian. We'll turn into that in just a second. But first, I want to explain what the word guarantee means. See, he's been using all these different words to get different points across. And then he uses this off the wall word here, guarantee, and it's basically a legalese term. It's something used in more financial issues, not the contracts that he's been talking about the whole time. Now he switches and it pulls this whole new idea out. And the idea behind guarantee is someone who presents the endeavors of someone else while putting himself at risk. So I'll let you think about that because it's kind of a mouthful. Someone who presents the endeavors of someone else while putting himself at risk. So think of Jesus presenting God's new covenant, or the Father's new covenant, while he was the one who died on the cross to present that new covenant. So that's kind of the idea there, okay? So since Jesus is a priest by God's oath, that is the proof of God's better covenant, and his position is not going to change. And this is how George Guthrie said this, and I think this is just spot on, so I just yanked it from his book. This one was taken from the NIV Application Bible Commentary, I believe. And this is what it says. New covenant people have a covenant that is better because by virtue of God's oath, Jesus, the mediator of that covenant, holds an unalterable position. So this is basically the exact same thing that I was just saying, just worded it a lot better than I ever could have worded it. Jesus is a priest by God's oath. That is the proof of God's better covenant. I mean, that's really the summary of everything that's being said here in this section. And so we can summarize this by, this is continued from last week, and we're going to continue the same main theme into next week. Jesus, a superior priest. Any questions about the section that we looked over tonight? Real short and simple, I think. We didn't want to go too long because I thought we were going to have a group discussion. Thank goodness I didn't, though, huh? It's 7:55. We would have been here all night. That's bad. All the people with kids are like, yeah, I know. Any questions on this? Don't ever feel like you can't ask questions. There are no stupid questions. And if somebody doesn't do a good job explaining it, it's important that we have questions so that way we can really explain it and stuff. I mean, if you don't understand something, what's the point of even having a Bible study, right? So, no questions? Was that, remind me, Todd, was that verse quoted in Hebrews? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We live in a very changeable world, don't we? So glad that Jesus remains the same. Especially because, those of us who have different illnesses and different stuff, every day is a new challenge, I tell you what. But, Jesus is something that's always a firm constant. So it was in Hebrews chapter 13, you said? 13:8. Okay. So, yeah. I'm guessing that's going to be something he comes back around to then. Yeah. Okay, any questions then? No? Okay.